The announcement of Iran's urgent move to finalize a deal for Russia's advanced S-400 missile defense systems has sent shockwaves across the Middle East and beyond, stirring debates in global capitals and sparking concerns among military strategists about how this could reshape the region's already volatile security landscape. The deal, which has been in discussion for several years but has now gained sudden urgency, underscores both Iran's growing need for an advanced air defense shield in the face of perceived threats and Russia's willingness to use arms exports as a tool to bolster alliances at a time of shifting global power dynamics. The S-400 system, long regarded as one of the most sophisticated surface-to-air missile platforms in the world, offers capabilities that could fundamentally alter the balance of air superiority in the Middle East, raising questions about how Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and the United States will respond to such a development. For years, Iran has been under constant pressure from a combination of sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and repeated threats of military action, particularly over its controversial nuclear program and its growing missile arsenal. With Israel regularly warning that it might take unilateral action against Iran's nuclear sites if diplomacy fails, and with the United States maintaining a heavy military presence across the Gulf, Iranian officials have been increasingly vocal about their country's need for an impenetrable defense shield. Until now, Iran has largely relied on domestically produced systems like the Bavar 373, which Tehran has promoted as a homegrown equivalent to the S-300 or even the S-400, though analysts have cast doubt on whether these indigenous systems truly match the capabilities of Russia's battle-tested technology. The urgency with which Iran has reportedly pressed Moscow to deliver the S-400 indicates that Tehran sees a real and imminent threat to its airspace, whether from Israeli jets, American bombers, or even drone swarm attacks of the kind seen in recent regional conflicts. The S-400 Triumph system is a game-changer in many respects. Designed to target aircraft, cruise missiles, and even ballistic missiles at ranges of up to 400 kilometers and altitudes of up to 30 kilometers, it provides a level of protection that very few regional actors can currently counter. If deployed strategically across Iran's key military and nuclear sites, it would complicate any potential strike plans by Israel or the United States, forcing adversaries to risk heavier losses or to develop new tactics to neutralize the system. What makes the S-400 particularly significant is not just its range and precision, but its ability to track and engage multiple targets simultaneously, including stealth aircraft, which are the cornerstone of American and Israeli strike capabilities. Military analysts have noted that if Iran successfully integrates the S-400 into its existing defense architecture, it could deter preemptive strikes and embolden Tehran in its regional policies, from its support for proxy groups to its involvement in regional conflicts stretching from Lebanon to Yemen. For Russia, selling the S-400 to Iran is not merely a commercial transaction, but a geopolitical maneuver with profound consequences. As Moscow faces isolation from the West due to its war in Ukraine and increasing sanctions, the Kremlin has sought to deepen ties with countries that share an adversarial relationship with Washington. Iran has already become a key supplier of drones to Russia, which have been extensively used in Ukraine, and in return, Moscow has opened the door for advanced military cooperation. By providing Tehran with the S-400, Russia strengthens an anti-Western bloc that could challenge American influence in the Middle East, while also securing billions of dollars in defense revenue at a time when its economy is under pressure. Moreover, the transfer of such technology signals that Moscow no longer fears alienating Israel, with whom it has historically maintained a delicate balance in Syria. Instead, Russia appears willing to take calculated risks to deepen its reliance on Iran, not only as a military partner, but also as a key player in circumventing Western economic and diplomatic pressure. Israel, meanwhile, is watching the development with mounting concern. For years, the Israeli military has relied on its air superiority to enforce red lines against Iran's nuclear program and to strike Iranian positions in Syria with relative impunity. If Iran acquires and fully deploys the S-400, those operations could become far more dangerous, potentially limiting Israel's freedom of action and forcing it to either escalate its tactics or seek alternative ways to counter Iranian influence. Israeli defense officials have repeatedly signaled that they consider the S-400 a serious threat, especially if placed near nuclear facilities such as Natanz or Fordo, which have long been identified as possible targets for preemptive strikes. Some analysts believe that Israel may accelerate its efforts to acquire or develop new technologies to penetrate or jam the S-400's radar systems, while others suggest that Israel may seek even closer cooperation with the United States to ensure access to advanced bunker-busting munitions or electronic warfare platforms capable of neutralizing the Russian system. The United States also finds itself in a difficult position. Washington has long maintained a vast military footprint across the Gulf, with bases in Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates, as well as a naval presence in the Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea. American air operations rely on the assumption that the U.S. can project power at will in the region, but the deployment of advanced systems like the S-400 in Iran could complicate flight paths, deter overflights, and potentially put American aircraft at risk in the event of a confrontation. While the Pentagon maintains confidence in its ability to counter any system through stealth technology, electronic warfare, and overwhelming force, there is little doubt that Iran's acquisition of the S-400 would make any military campaign significantly more costly and politically fraught. It could also push U.S. allies in the region to rethink their defense strategies, with Saudi Arabia and the UAE possibly accelerating their own purchases of advanced systems, either from the United States or even from alternative suppliers like China. The Gulf states, already wary of Iran's growing influence, are unlikely to welcome this development. Saudi Arabia has been engaged in a years-long rivalry with Tehran, marked by proxy conflicts in Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon, as well as ideological competition across the Muslim world. If Iran fortifies its air defenses to the point of deterring external strikes, Riyadh may perceive that Tehran will have greater freedom to expand its regional footprint, further destabilizing the Gulf. Some regional experts suggest that the S-400 deal may spark a new arms race in the Middle East, with countries scrambling to acquire advanced missile defense systems, long-range precision weapons, and electronic warfare tools to counter each other. The region is already one of the world's most heavily militarized, and this development could exacerbate tensions at a time when diplomacy appears increasingly fragile. Beyond the immediate military implications, Iran's urgent push for the S-400 reflects a broader strategic calculation. Tehran has grown increasingly convinced that negotiations with the West over its nuclear program will not deliver meaningful relief from sanctions or security guarantees. Instead, Iranian leaders appear to have doubled down on the idea that deterrence through strength is the only viable path forward. By securing the S-400, Iran sends a clear message to both its adversaries and its own population that the Islamic Republic is prepared to defend itself against foreign intervention and will not be intimidated by threats of airstrikes or sanctions. This narrative also plays well domestically, as the government seeks to rally support by portraying itself as a bulwark against external aggression. However, deploying the S-400 in Iran will not be without challenges. The system requires significant training, integration with existing radar networks, and potentially the presence of Russian technical personnel to operate effectively. Some Western analysts believe that Moscow may retain partial control over the system, limiting Tehran's independence in its use. Others argue that Iran's own technological base, while improving, may struggle to maintain such advanced hardware without ongoing Russian support. Nevertheless, even the symbolic presence of the S-400 could serve as a powerful deterrent. altering the calculations of adversaries who might otherwise have considered a preemptive strike. Another important dimension of this development is its potential to reshape alliances in the Middle East. Countries like Turkey, which already operates the S-400 despite tensions with NATO, may find common ground with Iran in their shared use of the Russian system. At the same time, Gulf states may draw closer to the United States and Israel in response, creating new alignments that further divide the region into competing blocs. China, which has been expanding its influence through both economic and security partnerships, could also see Iran's acquisition of the S-400 as a stepping stone toward deeper military cooperation, especially as Beijing seeks to secure its energy supply routes through the Gulf. In Washington, policymakers are likely to debate how best to respond. Options could include accelerating the deployment of advanced missile defense systems to Gulf allies, imposing new sanctions on Iran and Russia. The broader question remains, will the acquisition of the S-400 make the Middle East more stable or more dangerous? Proponents of deterrence argue that if Iran feels secure behind a robust defense shield, it may be less likely to lash out preemptively or to pursue risky strategies that could invite retaliation. Critics, however, warn that emboldening Tehran could lead to more aggressive policies, with Iran expanding support for proxy groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, or militias in Iraq, knowing that its own homeland is shielded from attack. History suggests that military buildups in the region rarely lead to de-escalation, and the introduction of such an advanced system could instead set off a spiral of countermeasures that pushes the Middle East closer to the brink of open conflict. As regional capitals digest the news of Iran's urgent S-400 deal, the sense of unease is palpable. In Tel Aviv, policymakers weigh the risks of losing operational freedom against the need to preserve deterrence. In Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, leaders consider the possibility of a new arms race and how it might strain their already fragile economies. In Washington, officials grapple with how to balance commitments in the Middle East while managing global competition with Russia and China. And in Tehran, the government portrays the deal as a victory for sovereignty and security, even as ordinary Iranians wonder whether the billions spent on advanced weapons will improve their daily lives under crushing economic sanctions. The S-400 deal thus represents far more than a simple arms purchase. It is a flashpoint in the struggle for influence, security, and survival in one of the world's most volatile regions. It highlights the deep interconnections between global rivalries, regional conflicts, and local politics, underscoring how decisions made in Moscow and Tehran can reverberate from Washington to Tel Aviv, from Riyadh to Beijing. As the system is delivered, deployed, and integrated, the world will be watching closely, aware that the balance of power in the Middle East may be shifting before our eyes. In the months ahead, the question will not only be how quickly Iran can operationalize the S-400, but also how its adversaries will adapt. Will Israel gamble on a preemptive strike before the system becomes fully functional, or will it seek new technologies to neutralize it? Will the United States double down on military commitments in the Gulf, or will it recalibrate its strategy in light of new risks? Will the Gulf states pursue diplomacy to reduce tensions, or will they accelerate their own military buildups? Each choice carries profound consequences, and each miscalculation could push the region closer to confrontation. The S-400 may be a defensive system, but its arrival in Iran could ignite a new chapter of competition, mistrust, and potential conflict that reverberates far beyond the skies it is designed to protect.